system.
Yeah.
A very brief question. The Honourable Member for Winnipeg North, 15 seconds.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, can the Conservative Party now confirm that they want us to go back to the old system and not have the civilian force justice system involved?
Like Eastman, an equally brief response.
Mr. Speaker, I'll just say that Bill C-11, there were some things in there that we did support. But the problem is that at report stage, the government removed all of the amendments that actually improved the bill and actually gone back to a paternalistic system that will not work for victims. We can't support it.
Statements by members. Déclaration de député. The Honourable Member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mother's Day was not invented by Hallmark cards. In the late 1800s, it was an annual Mother's Day for peace. It was started by mothers and women who were sick of seeing the ravages of war after the Civil War and the Franco-Prussian War, and they started an annual day to call for an end to war. So this, in 2026, let us think of the mothers of Ukraine, whose children are stolen by Putin to have their culture erased. Let us think of the mothers of Palestine, whose grief is unending. Let us think of our indigenous mothers whose daughters are still missing and murdered, of the mothers of Russia, whose children are stolen by Putin for an illegal war. This Mother's Day, whether for mothers in Israel or Sudan, we know that Mother's Day is all about love. But let's take a moment and let Mother's Day be a cry for peace. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for South Surrey White Rock.
Mr. Speaker, in Canada, educators are working to ensure that our schools are places where all students feel safe, respected, and able to learn. Organizations like ARC Foundation support this effort through initiatives like HoC 123, which provide educators with age-appropriate tools and resources to foster inclusive and respectful school environments. This helps schools strengthen policies, promote kindness, and ensure that students, regardless of background, identity, or experience, can thrive. Research has shown that inclusive school environments can reduce social exclusion, bullying, and discrimination, benefiting not only 2S LGBTQIA+ youth, but also students feel safe and supported. It's important to ensure that our schools reflect both inclusion and trust, allowing society to learn and accept the diverse world around them. Every young person in Canada deserves dignity, respect, and the opportunity to reach their full potential. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Regina Wascana.
Mr. Speaker, in a recent video, the Prime Minister called Canada's closeness to the United States a weakness. This anti-American attitude, combined with the Liberals' decades-long opposition to pipelines, have caused the Americans to look elsewhere to meet their energy needs. Last month, the Americans suspended sanctions on oil imports from Russia. That's right. Even Vladimir Putin is better at selling natural resources to the United States than this Prime Minister. What a shame it is that the Keystone XL pipeline hasn't been built yet. Western Canadian oil should be flowing through that pipeline right now at $100 per barrel, and the wealth generated should be increasing the standard of living here in Canada. Instead, the money is going to Russia to pay for their illegal war against Ukraine. Canadians and the world expect better from this Prime Minister. When will he unlock our resources so Canadians can afford to live?
There you go.
The Honourable Member for Fredericton Oromocto.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to congratulate firefighter David Gamble on his retirement from the Oromocto Fire Department after 37 years of service. Mr. Gamble had a reputation for doing things the right way. His uniform was meticulous, his tools were clean, his gear was organized. 7:30 a.m. meant radio check time, no exceptions. Selon ses collègues, c'est notamment grâce à...
It is thanks to the focus on detail that he was so reliable and trustworthy at work. Mr. Gamble was highly ethical, old school in everything he did.
Recognized the commitment to the job. In 2010, the Governor General awarded him with the Fire Service's Exemplary Service Medal. Now it's our turn to applaud his exceptional contribution. Please join me in thanking firefighter Gamble for his dedication and professionalism over the past 37 years. Merci.
The Honourable Member for Bruce Grey Owen Sound.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today as a plea to the government that we need to do better. This week, Veterans Affairs hosted the long-delayed National Afghanistan War Memorial groundbreaking. This monument will recognize the commitment and sacrifice of the over 40,000 sailors, soldiers, aviators, special forces operators, along with the hundreds of Canadian civilians who served in Canada's longest combat mission from 2001 to 2014. It will serve as an enduring testament to the 158 Canadian Armed Forces personnel and 7 Canadian civilians who made the supreme sacrifice. It's on all of us to ensure they and their families are never forgotten. Where we and the government need to improve is that we need the Afghan veterans to be front and center with this project. Unfortunately, on Monday, the symbolic groundbreaking spent more time focused on the monument itself instead of the veterans and their families. I'm committed to doing what I can to ensure that when this monument is built and officially unveiled in 2028, that Afghan veterans are the focus. I plead with the Liberal government to do the same, lest we forget.
The Honourable Member for Beauport-Limoilou. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to mark a significant anniversary in my riding. This year, the Cercle des Fermières Courville will be celebrating its 50th anniversary. For half a century now, this group has been much more than a place for teaching textile and craft skills. It's a true pillar of community life, a space for gathering, solidarity, participation. Over the years, the members of the Cercle des Fermières de Courville have successfully preserved precious traditions while evolving them, sharing them with new generations, and adapting them to our times. I'd like to pay tribute to the founders, the current members, and those who will carry on their legacy. Congratulations on these 50 years of history and collective pride. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Prince Albert.
Mr. Speaker, today I want to recognize the communities across Saskatchewan and in my riding of Prince Albert that are facing serious flooding. This week, the Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency reported that 34 communities are under local states of emergency with 20 active flooding incidents. Families are dealing with flooded roads, damaged property, and the uncertainty that comes with rapidly changing conditions. With significant road closures and communities under pressure, first responders, volunteers, and neighbors are working around the clock to keep people safe. But they shouldn't have to face this alone. I urge all levels of government to act without delay by working together to deliver emergency response, evacuation support, and disaster assistance to those affected communities. To those back home, your bravery, strength, and cooperation help save people's homes and property. Thank you to all those who have stepped up to help their neighbors through these difficult times.
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Member for Winnipeg North.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Unlike the Conservatives, this Prime Minister and this government understands the real value of our public health care system. One of the wonderful initiatives that we're taking is investing $5 billion over 3 years to improve the infrastructure of our health care systems. That talks about things such as emergency services, hospital capital improvements, other health care facilities, Mr. Speaker. So provinces can prioritize what they believe is important. Personally, I'm plugging for the Seven Oaks Hospital reestablishing its emergency services. But the bottom line, Mr. Speaker, is as a government, we understand, we appreciate the needs for our health care, and as a government, we will continue to support our health care system because we believe in Canadians, and Canadians want public health care. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Richmond Centre, Marpole.
Mr. Speaker, shoplifting is no longer petty crime. It's becoming a growing crisis affecting public safety, affordability, and confidence in our justice system. Across Canada, police reported shoplifting has increased by 66% over the past decade, with annual losses at nearly $10 billion. In Richmond, police recorded more than 1,700 shoplifting cases last year. In the first 2 months of this year, reports surged another 70%. Businesses are spending more on insurance and security instead of growth. Retail workers face intimidation and unsafe conditions. Consumers are paying the price through higher costs. Canadians felt abandoned by a system where repeat offenders are arrested, released, and soon back in the very same stores again. People are left asking, how much worse must this crisis become before meaningful action is finally taken by the Liberal government? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for La Pointe de Lille. Mr. Speaker, it's a pleasure for me to pay tribute to Santé Marche-Justin in my riding of La Pointe-du-Lille. This is a walking club for people 50 years and older. It's connected to the Centre Communautaire au Sein at Pointe-en-Tremble. Regardless of the weather, for the last 32 years, they've been bringing people together from Monday to Friday at 9 a.m. at the Parc de la Pointe aux Prairies to walk together as a group, to socialize and stay in shape. To be healthy, you got to move. And we know this. The healthier you are, the more you're productive, the more you can take advantage of life. So I'd like to thank all of the walkers of La Pointe-de-Lille and the entire organization of the Santé Marche-au-Sein group. Christiane Mercier, the president, all members of the team for their contribution to active transportation, social lives, and our collective health. They are here, actually, in our gallery today. Long life to the Club de Santé Marche-au-Sein.
In Brooklyn.
Mr. Speaker, May 18th is not just a date on a calendar. For Tamil Canadians, it's a wound that has never fully healed. 17 years ago, the Sri Lankan Civil War ended in a final offensive that claimed the lives of tens of thousands of Tamil civilians in a matter of weeks. Hundreds of thousands displaced. The wounds, psychological, familial, cultural, persist to this day. As someone with Tamil roots, I carry this history. Tamil Canadians across this country carry it too, in the names of relatives they never got to say goodbye, to the trauma passed silently between generations. Tamil Canadians across the country are asking for the truth to be spoken here, in this house where it matters. We remember May 18th, Tamil Genocide Remembrance Day, because memory is resistance, because silence encourages those who would repeat these horrors elsewhere in the world. Mr. Speaker, I call on this government and all members to stand with Tamil Canadians across the nation this month. Thank you.
The member for Parry Sound Muskoka.
Mr. Speaker, in response to the need to build 500,000 homes per year, the Prime Minister promised to build at a speed not seen in a generation. Today, the housing industry projects a nearly 20% decline in construction over the next 3 years, while Stats Canada reports that home ownership among young people is at the lowest level it's been since just after the Second World War. Even the Parliamentary Budget Officer has now confirmed that housing momentum is vanishing. Housing professionals, and conservatives I might add as well, have been warning for years now that the greatest threat to building more homes that Canadians can afford is in fact government fees and delays. So what has the Prime Minister done? Well, he spent the last year building the fourth federal housing bureaucracy, an agency that the PBO estimates will only add 26,000 units of the millions we need over the next 5 years. So here's my suggestions for the Prime Minister. Stop building bureaucracy. Cut the government delays, cut the fees, cut the taxes, and get out of the way so builders can build and Canadians can afford a home again.
The honourable member for Don Valley West.
Mr. Speaker, on April the 2nd, Don Valley West mourned the loss of Safia Parveen, a formidable community leader and advocate for the Thorncliffe Park neighbourhood in my riding. Recognizing the significant benefit that nature can have on our mental health, a decade ago, Safia launched the Thorncliffe Wellness Cafe Group, connecting newcomers with each other and with their natural environment. Having been a newcomer to Canada herself, Safia knew the toll that coming to a new country can take on even the healthiest person. Her commitment to improving the mental and emotional health of newcomer women was remarkable. With endless compassion, she guided countless women helping them to stay healthy and contribute to our community. I was proud to honor Safia and other volunteers in the Thorncliffe Wellness Cafe Group at my annual New Year's levee this past January on their 10th anniversary. To Allah she belongs, and to Allah she returns.
The member for Selkirk Interlake Eastman.
Mr. Speaker, for over 50 years, the Snowbirds of the 431 Air Demonstration Squadron has served as an iconic symbol of Canadian identity, a powerful showcase of military excellence, and one of the Canadian Armed Forces' most effective recruitment tools. Canadians have felt a surge of pride of watching the Snowbirds fly overhead. Sadly, 2026 may be the final season for the Snowbirds. In keeping with this Liberal government's tradition of cancelling our national symbols and heritage, the Liberals plan to end the Snowbirds team without any clear plans for replacement. Liberals claim this is merely a pause, but if the squadron is disbanded, the culture of excellence and institutional knowledge of the pilots, ground crew, and support staff will be lost and may be impossible to recover. The snowbirds are not a relic of the past. They inspire future generations to step forward, to serve their country and believe in what Canadians can accomplish together. This is precisely the right time to let them soar across Canadian skies. It's time to save our snowbirds.
L'honorable député d'Orléans.
Monsieur le Président. The Honourable Member of Orleans. Mr. Speaker, the community of Orleans is alive with culture. I'd like to congratulate MIFO for launching its 2026-27 arts program, which will showcase Francophone culture through performances, comedy, theatre, and new this year, a youth component.
A vibrant local economy where we see new small businesses choosing Orléans to thrive. I was pleased to join the two owners, Canoir Hansra and Chris Lantier, for the ribbon cutting of their new A&W location on Trim Road. This location is their second in Orléans and the fifth across our national capital region. What was most fun, Mr. Speaker, is to meet their iconic mascot, Rudy, the great root beer, as we celebrated this milestone. Congratulations. Félicitations.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Midnapore.
Liberals like to claim that they are efficient stewards of public funds. However, by 2030, they'll have added $1 trillion to the national debt since taking office. Their reckless spending means taxpayers will pay $59 billion servicing the debt this year alone. That's $3,400 for every single Canadian family. This is not sustainable, and it's not something a government that cares about our finances or our future would do. In fact, their so-called savings plan is now so low on the priority list that it was barely mentioned in the Liberal costly budget. With this Prime Minister, it's more cost, more debt, and more of the same. Seniors who built this nation deserve better. Families trying to just survive deserve better. And the future of our nation, our youth, deserves better. Under a Conservative government, Canada can and will get back on the path of prosperity.
The Honourable Member for Carleton.
Speaker, life changes in a moment. Sometimes that moment means the difference between life and death. Austin Pierce, a beloved son, brother, partner, friend, and member of this parliamentary community, suffered a life-threatening injury last Friday. Austin is healing today thanks to the swift and heroic action of an off-duty Ottawa firefighter, Jason Murray. I encourage all Canadians to learn first aid because one day you may be the person in the right place at the right time to save someone's life like Jason did. On behalf of this House, I express our profound gratitude to Jason for being there for Austin in those critical first moments. Thank you also to all first responders and all healthcare professionals. And to Austin, Godspeed, dear friend.
Oral questions. Questions orales. The Honourable Member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today's unemployment numbers bring more troubling news. It's more job losses, more pain, more of the same. 112,000 job losses so far this year. Unemployment up, youth unemployment is surging, and student unemployment is at a whopping 16%. Now, Conservatives are putting forward constructive solutions. Liberals are ignoring them. Are these job numbers finally enough to wake up this Prime Minister?
The Honourable Parliament Secretary, the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, being in a trade war means we're all rightly concerned about jobs in Canada. On this side, we want workers across the country to have good incomes and high-paying careers for generations. That's exactly what Canadians need. But unlike the Conservatives, we don't just wail and scream in this House. We're doing the hard work to support workers. We're investing in recruiting, training, and hiring up to 100,000 more skilled trades workers. And we've supported Canada's Summer Jobs, which has increased place and has offered 100,000 youth jobs across the country. That's how you build Canada strong. That's how you support workers.
Now, member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, Conservatives have been putting forward very specific, constructive solutions from the very beginning. The Liberal plan is not working. Now, the member spoke about skilled trades. The reality is, in the last month, we lost 15,700 jobs in construction alone, thousands of jobs in natural resources, utilities, and manufacturing. We need skilled trades workers, and we need jobs for those skilled trades workers to work in. Why is this government killing opportunity for skilled trades workers and others with their continuing failures on the economy?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary of Finance.
As usual, Conservatives in this House complain every day, but they don't have any plan to support Canada's prosperity. They don't have any plan to support Canadian workers and families, and they vote against every single measure that we put forward. We're making generational investments in this country. Just take the 15 major projects that have been announced. That's going to be $125 billion of new investment and 60,000 jobs. Just take the Defence Industrial Strategy. That's 125,000 jobs. The Canada Summer Jobs Program, 100,000 jobs. Those are all tangible programs and initiatives that are...
The Honourable Member for Brandon Souris.
Well, the unemployment numbers are in for April, Mr. Speaker, and Canadians are devastated, particularly young Canadians. After being forced to watch Liberal spending grow month over month, young Canadians continue to see job losses month over month. In April alone, youth unemployment rose to 14.3%, and student unemployment is over 16%. More young Canadians are unemployed now than at any time since 1976. This is a crisis for young people. Where is the urgency from this Liberal government to deal with this? Or is the plan simply to keep young Canadians unemployed, homeless, desperate, and reliant on Liberal government programs to stay alive?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, the trade war is definitely threatening Canadian jobs. We're all aware of that. I don't know why it's a sudden realization for the Conservatives, but on this side of the House, we take those threats seriously, and that's why we're stepping up to help workers with generational investments in housing, infrastructure, defense, innovation, and productivity, which are creating hundreds of thousands of good-paying careers for Canadians across Canada, while at the same time, we're helping people access those careers by recruiting, training, and hiring up to 100,000 new skilled trades workers. That's how you build the country that we all love.
No, member for Brandon Souris.
Mr. Speaker, the numbers speak for themselves. Jobs among young people are down, not up, despite what that member has to say in this House. Young Canadians want a job and a home they can afford, neither of which they can get after 10 years of these same tired Liberals. Youth unemployment is over 14%. The housing starts are down, no new major projects approved, more Canadians investing in the US and the EU than in Canada. No Liberal social program is going to fix that, Mr. Speaker. We need a competitive market so investors can invest, builders can build, and young Canadians can get to work. When will these Liberals get out of the way so young Canadians can get to work and build this country?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, when job numbers come in every month, it seems that the Conservatives rejoice too much when there are job losses in this country. Whereas we're doing the hard... Why are they so jovial and celebratory when they hear that Canadians are losing jobs? On this side of the House, we're empathetic to what Canadians are going through, and we're stepping up to support them with real support. That's extending EI for seasonal workers, increasing tax deductions for workers that they need, and helping to recruit, train, and hire 100,000 new skilled trades workers. That's real support.
The Honourable Member for Côte-du-Sud, Rivière-du-Loup, Kataskamik, Temiscouata. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Here's the definition of this costly Liberal Prime Minister. More taxes, more spending, more agencies, more money on the national credit card, more interest paid on the national credit card, more job losses. Still the same thing. After 11 years of Liberal government, all we're doing right now is losing jobs, Mr. Speaker. When will this Prime Minister realize that throwing money out the window isn't going to grow the economy? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I patently would say that the premise of the member's question is false. This government is exercising fiscal restraint and discipline We have the strongest fiscal position. Members opposite can say whatever they want, but the International Monetary Fund, who is one of the experts at analyzing world economies, has said Canada has the strongest fiscal position in the G7. So we're using that fiscal capacity, just as has been recommended by the IMF, to support Canadians by making generational investments.
The Honourable Member for Côte-du-Sud, Rivière-du-Loup, Kataskamik, Témiscouata. Now, he's talking about budget cuts. They've just doubled the deficit, Mr. Speaker. Come on. The Prime Minister is an illusion. Unlike what my colleague says, Canada is currently losing tens of thousands of jobs every month. In Quebec alone, 43,000 jobs were lost in April. That brings the total job losses for 2026 to 91,000 just in Quebec. And that's the fault of Liberal management. So how can the Liberal government claim? How can they keep trying to tell us that everything is fine? It's just unbelievable. Impossible. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Canadian Identity. It's clear that on this side of the House, Mr. Speaker, that we are working very hard for jobs. And that's why this week the Prime Minister met with Intertech. This is a business that's having challenges because of Trump's unjustified tariffs. But the Prime Minister and the CEO, Julie Desrosiers, worked together, and she thanked the Prime Minister for the work that he's doing on behalf of every Canadian and for all the innovation that we are fostering. So they're confident that they can build and have jobs over the next year for their employees at Intertech. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister met with his Alberta counterpart, Danielle Smith, and we know that he's already promised her new pipelines on condition that developers pay for them. And it's with that promise that he's put himself in a bind, according to the Liberal member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie in an interview in Le Devoir. He promised more pipelines, but the oil companies don't want to pay for them. Well, you know what, Quebecers, they don't want to pay for them either. Did the Prime Minister tell Ms. Smith that their agreement specifies that no public funds will go towards pipelines?
The Honourable Minister for Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, if we want to talk about what we're doing with public money, well, we're making major investments in renewable energy. If you look at electricity and the tax credit, we have billions of dollars that are going into our electricity network across the country. If you look at what we're doing, we're making investments to make sure that we are reducing methane emissions. We are doing that work. We continue to fight climate change. The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Mr. Speaker, well, it smells like a new pipeline here in Ottawa. I'll quote the member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie, a Liberal, this morning. Where I draw the line, it's if the federal government decides to use one of the many mechanisms at its disposal to buy a pipeline. But the Prime Minister is worrying him with the economic update. He's invented this new thing. He's calling it the Sovereign Fund with $25 billion in public money to finance dirty oil. Are there other Liberals who are going to draw a red line and refuse to bill citizens for a new pipeline? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, our friends in the Bloc Québécois aren't able to tell the difference between an and or an or. We want to be an energy superpower in conventional energy and in clean energy. That's what we're doing, and it's for all of Canada and for all Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Beauharnois-Soulanges, Salisbury, Huntington. Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Prime Minister confirmed that as soon as this week, he'll weaken the regulations governing pipeline approvals. At the same time, in the economic update, the Prime Minister created a sovereign fund in which he's poured $25 billion in public money to finance energy projects. It's impossible to not put two and two together here. Is the Prime Minister going to make Quebecers pay for dirty oil pipelines that, on top of everything else, won't have to comply with laws and regulations? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources. Mr. Speaker, we were clear. Our goal is to catalyse $500 billion of private sector investments. The Major Projects Office is playing a major role in that. Alberta has said that they will come forward with a proposal by July 1st. We'll look at it with the criteria that are established in the Build Canada Act. So, Mr. Speaker, according to the MOU, the federal government is open to using the Canada Indigenous Loans Corporation to support co-owned property with Indigenous peoples if necessary.
Mr. Speaker, after over a decade of reckless Liberal inflationary spending, young Canadians are falling further behind than ever before. Last month, Canada lost 47,000 full-time jobs, and youth unemployment is up over 14%. That's more than double the national rate. Young Canadians are now more unemployed than at any point in recorded Canadian history. Young people can't afford rent, they can't afford groceries, and certainly not a home. They're sending out hundreds of resumes with no response. Under these Liberals, it's more taxes, more jobs, and more of the same. Why is this Liberal Prime Minister making young Canadians sacrifice for his failures?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, Minister of Natural Resources.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we know that youth unemployment is uneven across the country. 6,600 new youth jobs in Alberta, by the way, this year. But let's talk about the top line here. The second fastest growth in the G7, the best fiscal position in the G7, 20 new trade and security deals, non-U.S. exports up 40%, highest foreign direct investment in the G7, twice that of the next country, created more jobs than the U.S. last year, wages are growing, inflation is slowing, investments in affordable gas, affordable food, affordable child care, affordable dental care. There is more to do, Mr. Speaker, much more to do, but it would be great if the opposition would get serious and join us.
Member for Parkland.
Mr. Speaker, I thought that this Liberal Prime Minister was supposed to be good with money, but they just lost $175 million in less than 6 months on a failing diamond mine that just sought creditor protection. Young Canadians were promised opportunity, but after a decade of Liberal reckless spending, they are getting fewer jobs and less opportunity. This year, Canada's lost 111,000 full-time jobs. We have thousands of skilled workers just waiting for this Liberal government to get out of the way, and unfortunately, it's just more taxes, more job losses, and more of the same. Why is this Liberal Prime Minister making young Canadians pay for his economic recklessness?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary and Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, we're making historic investments in young people. My colleagues today have already mentioned a number of those major projects. I'm sure we'll get to hear that question and get expansions of that question many more times today. But between November and April, we've reduced our deficit by $11 billion, strengthening what was already the best fiscal position in the G7. But I would ask the opposition, is 2026, right now, with the wars and the trade wars and the crisis a day drag on the economy, is this the time for austerity budgets, slashing social programs and slashing affordability supports, as you seem to be suggesting?
Order again, we'll address the comments to the chair. The Honourable Member for Lakeland.
Canada's new job numbers are out. It's devastating. 47,000 full-time jobs gone. Unemployment at 7%. It's 4% in the U.S. And for young Canadians, it's double the overall rate. The Liberals' trillion-dollar debt means higher costs of everything, lower standard of living, and less opportunities for Canadians who want to start families, plan a future, put aside savings, but they can't afford it since government takes and takes. Canada is rich in natural and human resources. No one should struggle to find work. So how much longer will the Prime Minister force Canadians to pay the price for his costly credit card budgets?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, Conservatives say they care about affordability, but then they oppose essential supports for families like child care, dental care, and school food programs. Then they say they care about Canadian jobs, but they only celebrate the losses and are completely silent on the months where we make major gains across the country. They say they care about Canada's fiscal management while completely ignoring $11 billion less of a deficit, the fact that we save $60 billion on government operations, and we have the strongest fiscal position in the G7 according to the IMF. While Conservatives only seem to want to see Canada fail, we're here to make sure it succeeds.
The Honourable Member for Lakeland.
These guys are so out of touch and just don't give a rip about what Canadians are actually going through. Last fall, the Prime Minister told young Canadians they'd have to make sacrifices. Well, he sure did mean it, didn't he? Because new numbers show youth unemployment is at 14.3%. Young Canadians now face the toughest job market on record and struggle to afford rent, groceries, and textbooks. No wonder young men and women lose hope. How could they ever get ahead? Young Canadians pay the highest price for Liberal debt deficits and costly credit card budgets that mortgage their futures. So over a year in, how much more will the PM force young Canadians to sacrifice and suffer?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, Minister of Housing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, we believe now is the time to invest and build our communities. We are creating jobs while building housing and building infrastructure. I wonder if our colleague from Alberta could let us know what projects she would cut from her budget. Is it the investments in rural communities across Alberta to expand fleets, transit services, and plan for the future? Is it the new Japanese Community Centre in Calgary? Is it $3 million to improve treatment services at the Conklin Water Treatment Plant in the regional municipality of Wood Buffalo, Alberta? What would they plan to cut?
Member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Mr. Speaker, Canada lost 18,000 jobs in April. The unemployment rate's now 6.9%. Youth unemployment jumped to 14.3%. Young Canadians are unemployed longer than at any time since 1976.
Brutal.
Instead of results, what have these Liberals given us? More job losses and more of the same. The Prime Minister told Canadians they must prepare for sacrifices. Well, young Canadians are already sacrificing jobs, opportunity, and their futures. How much longer will this Liberal government force young people to sacrifice for their failures?
Hear, hear. Parliamentary Secretary, Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, young Canadians are feeling the pressure right now, and that is why we're making ambitious investments in the Canadian economy and young workers so that they can be part of building Canada strong. In our spring economic update, we announced our Team Canada Strong plan that invests in training and apprenticeship supports in the skilled trades. This will help train 100,000 skilled trade workers by 2030. We're going to ensure they have the tools they need to learn, grow, and help us build Canada strong.
Member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals speak of their latest programs, but the investors have already given us their verdict. Capital is leaving this country at a record pace. Investment per worker, lowest in the G7. 100,000 skilled tradespeople cannot find a project to work on in a country that needs millions of homes. A country is not built by speeches, MOUs, and press releases. It's built by employers willing to invest here. And guess what, Mr. Speaker? They're choosing to invest elsewhere. When will this Prime Minister fix the conditions that have driven investment, jobs, and opportunity out of this country?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Minister of Industry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before I came to this place, I taught undergraduate students for 15 years, and I know that the number that COVID and now the trade war is doing on them. And what do you do when a number is being done on young people? You build them up, you help them with hard skills and soft skills. And that's why we have the Team Canada Strong plan, 100,000 apprenticeships. And we have this summer 32,000 jobs with Statistics Canada in the census, a project that party would be first to cancel. That is where you build up the skills that get the kinds of careers that our students want and need, and that's why we're there for them.
Member for Sudbury East, Manitoulin, Nickel Belt.
Mr. Speaker, while this Liberal government claims the economy is growing, young Canadians are being left behind. Youth unemployment has risen to 14.3%. Nearly double the national rate, and young people across Northern Ontario are struggling to find work and build a future. It's more debt, more taxes, more job losses, just more of the same. When will this Liberal government finally deliver the jobs and opportunities young Canadians deserve?
The Honourable Secretary of State combating crime.
Mr. Speaker, we outlined our second part of our plan in our spring economic update. Our plan is to build Canada strong with over 80,000 to 100,000 new skilled worker jobs. Mr. Speaker, these jobs will go to young people in this country, Mr. Speaker. We recognize that young people need good employment. That is why we're announcing so many different projects throughout this country, and that is why we have a plan to recruit them, to train them, and to hire them, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Jonquière. Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Prime Minister and his Justice Minister confirmed that they will subject any potential referendum to the anti-democratic Referendum Clarity Act. They want to choose the question. They want to set the threshold for a majority. Let's remind them that democracy means 50% of the votes plus one. That's the rule wherever democracy exists. We also need to remind them that the difference between a democracy and a banana republic is precisely when a government interferes with the democratic choice of its citizens. Will the government respect democracy? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Justice. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are a government that is always going to protect the Constitution and the Charter, and we will always defend both of those. We will not say further at this time. We will await to see what is happening in Alberta, but the Prime Minister has been very clear. The rules are clear. There needs to be a majority, 50% plus one. There are laws around this. They need to be respected. The Honourable Member for Jonquière. Well, they weren't as clear as that yesterday. Democracy means 50% of the votes plus one. That's the threshold everywhere. All laws passed here, and for the election of every person to this House, it's the same for everyone. To challenge that is to challenge, in the case of Quebec, the right of a people to its own self-determination. It's an attack on Quebec's Bill 99, which establishes the 50% plus one rule for any referendum. And that's a law that has withstood judicial review. It's an attack on the principle of free elections. Will the Liberals put an end to this authoritarian drift and respect democracy? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, our party will always respect the law of the Land, the Clarity Act, 50% plus one. We do not have the intention to go against that law, which is very, very clear. We believe in democracy, and we will wait to see what is happening in Alberta. Thank you.
Member for Moose Jaw, Lake Centre, and Lanigan.
Speaker, CTV has confirmed 2 sources that snowbirds are not scheduled for their 2027 shows. For generations, the snowbirds have been inspiring and uniting Canadians. The minister said, quote, Canadians will enjoy snowbirds for generations to come. But in how many generations will it take to revive the iconic snowbirds after the Liberals cancel them? And how many generations will miss out by being inspired and looking to our skies?
The Prime Minister and Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, on May 19th, the Minister will be in Moose Jaw to provide updates on the future of the Canadian Forces snowbirds. The Royal Canadian Air Force is incredibly proud of the women and men who for decades have represented the Canadian Armed Forces with pride at air shows across North America and around the world. Canadians can rest assured that they will be able to enjoy the iconic snowbird formations for generations to come.
And the Moose Jaw, Lake Centre, Lanigan.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the question comes up, is that never? We never got an answer. Why not answer now? Why don't you answer right now? Are you keeping the snowbirds flying? Canadians from coast to coast to coast have been inspired by the snowbirds, an incredible symbol of strength and sovereignty. Now, more than ever, we need them. On what date will the iconic snowbirds return to the Canadian skies?
Address the questions through the chair. The Honourable Parliament Secretary, Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, as I said, the Minister will be in Moose Jaw on May 19th, and the Canadians can rest assured that they will be able to enjoy the iconic snowbird formation for generations to come. They will continue their air demonstrations with the Tudor fleet for as long as it is feasible and is safe.
Member for John Wascana.
Yesterday, the Defence Minister was covering for cancelling the snowbirds by telling Canadians the planes were unsafe. But according to CBC reporting, his own Defence Department says our snowbirds can continue flying the jets until at least 2030. So who are Canadians to believe, the Minister or his own department? Does the Minister not have confidence in his own department, or did he mislead this House yesterday?
Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I think I've been pretty clear. The Minister is going to be in Moose Jaw on May 19th to provide an update. I invite the members opposite to stay tuned for that announcement, and as we said, Canadians will continue to enjoy the iconic Snowbirds program for decades to come.
The Honourable Member for Bow River.
Mr. Speaker, Alberta beef is the best in the world. Produced by ranchers and farmers that are not asking for special treatment, they're asking for a fair shot. While the Liberals talk about buying Canadian, they're negotiating a Mercosur deal that could flood our market with imported beef produced under conditions Canadians would never accept at home. Canadian cattle producers are held to world-class standards, yet this government is prepared to reward foreign producers who do not play by the same rules. Why are the Liberals willing to undercut Bow River ranchers instead of standing up for Canadian beef, Canadian jobs, and Canadian ranching families?
The Honourable Parliament Secretary, the Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Mercosur Agreement represents 300 million people and 2.5 trillion economy, one of the largest market in the world. But we listen to our rancher, we listen to our producer, Mr. Speaker. We are listening to their concern about the trade agreement. And in fact, the study is going on at the committee, Mr. Speaker, and will continue to be there for our farmer because they work hard to put food on our table. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For Bow River.
Mr. Speaker, Conservatives support free trade, and ranchers do not need another Liberal press release about trade diversification. They need real market access and a government willing to defend their industry here at home. This isn't a game, but the Liberals are acting like the beef industry is a convenient bargaining chip. Will the Mercosur deal actually benefit farmers and ranchers in Canada?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Parliament Secretary, Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, all agreements are considered through the lens of Canadian interests, and all agreements are considered in the context of our other agreements. As has already been mentioned, Mercosur is an enormous market, and since this last election, the government has reached 20 new trade and security agreements. These agreements open markets for farmers and ranchers in places like China and Indonesia, two countries, by the way, that are 20% of the world population and 20% of the world GDP. Since the start of 2025, non-U.S. exports have climbed 40%. We are building a strong Canada for all, for our ranchers, for our farmers, for all Canadians.
The member for Cumberland Colchester.
Mr. Speaker, in communities across this country, intimate partner violence is not an abstract idea, and survivors have been clear that they need our justice system to act earlier and more effectively to keep them safe. I am proud to be part of this new government's commitment to taking tangible action to better protect Canadians. Will the Parliamentary Secretary please tell this House how Bill C-16 will strengthen protections for victims of violence and why it is so important that we move forward without delay?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Minister of Justice and Attorney General.
My colleague for her leadership. Violence driven by control and fear leaves deep and lasting harm, and far too many women and children are living with those consequences. That is why we introduced Bill C-16, one of the most significant updates to Canada's criminal justice system in generations. It criminalizes coercive control before violence turns lethal and strengthens protections against sexual exploitation, including AI deepfakes. Mr. Speaker, every day we delay in passing this bill, we are delaying protecting victims. I urge all members to support Bill C-16.
The member for Richmond Centre Marpole.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberal government says it disagrees with the Coventry ruling, but Canadians still do not know what exactly the Liberals disagree with. Which part of the ruling are they appealing? On what legal basis? Does this government believe private property ownership can coexist with Aboriginal title? Homeowners, municipalities, and business deserve clarity. Why are the Liberals refusing to give Canadians certainty?
Hear, hear. Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Cowichan case is under active litigation, and we won't be discussing our legal strategy on the House of Commons floor. However, Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Conservatives had a lot of questions about something that is public and available for them to read, which is the Musqueam Agreement. Yep. So let me read the Musqueam Agreement if they won't read it themselves. 5.1 of the agreement. This agreement does not constitute a treaty or land claim agreement. 5.2. This agreement does not create, amend, define, establish, abrogate, or derogate from Musqueam's rights and titles. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There's more on the website for them.
Member for Nanaimo, Ladysmith.
The Liberals failed to negotiate with Cowichan tribes, so they got sued and lost. They told their lawyers not to argue fee simple property rights, so the one argument they need isn't viable on appeal. British Columbians bought their homes, paid their mortgages, and followed the law. They want answers, Mr. Speaker, so we spent the week asking. Instead of answers, we got insults, intimidation, and illusions. The legal directive stopping federal lawyers from defending property rights is still on Canada.ca. So Liberal claims about defending those rights are just smoke and mirrors. Do the Liberals have a plan, or are they going to let judges make property rights vanish before Canadians' eyes?
Minister for Crown Indigenous Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As mentioned, the Cowichan case is under active litigation, and we're not going to discuss our litigation strategy. However, Mr. Speaker, as the Conservatives have referenced the litigation direction, they've only read one sentence out of principle number 14. Our government will always raise valid arguments in court. That's what the law demands and what Canadians deserve. Litigation guideline number 14 does not preclude Canada from relying on any specific defences, but requires a principled basis and evidence to support the defence. Canada has appealed the Cowichan ruling and all viable defences.
Member for Kamloops, Shuswap, Central Rockies.
Because this Liberal government directed its lawyers to not argue property rights in the Cowichan case, British Columbians who bought their homes, paid their mortgages, and followed the law don't know the status of their home ownership. The Liberal government directive number 14 is still in place. This means that legal instruction for federal lawyers to not defend property rights remain in place today. British Columbians need certainty of their home ownership. Will the Prime Minister reverse Directive 14 today?
Minister for Crown Indigenous Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The one thing that is clear is the Conservatives haven't read the Musqueam Agreement, the full litigation principle number 14, or the Canadian Constitution. Section 92 shows that provincial authority is private property. Private property is provincial authority. But, Mr. Speaker, the member opposite yesterday was talking about the secret agreement of Musqueam. Again, it's available on the website. It's section 5.1 and 5.2 that he should read. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The member for St. John, St. Croix.
Mr. Speaker, the Supreme Court is considering whether to hear a New Brunswick land claim case involving private property across half the province. Supporters of the claim openly argue that Aboriginal title should apply to private land. They believe that government should use expropriation powers to transfer it. The Liberals directed government lawyers to not defend private property rights in the Cowichan Tribe's case in British Columbia. So will the Prime Minister reverse this directive, or will he abandon his responsibility to defend the rights of property owners on Canada's west and east coasts?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the member opposite flagging the New Brunswick Court of Appeal. They reached a very different conclusion than Cowichan. So now we have two courts in Canada taking opposite approaches. That divergence is exactly why clarity from the courts is required, and that's the clarity that we're seeking in the Cowichan case, which we appealed. The government of British Columbia appealed, the Cowichan appealed, the Musqueam appealed, Tawasin appealed, the City of Richmond appealed. It's active litigation before the courts. Thanks, Mr. Speaker.
The member for St. John, St. Croix.
But, Mr. Speaker, Canadians are demanding clarity from this government on their legal strategy and to stand up and defend private property. But the Liberals are putting private property rights at risk in Canada. In 2019, the Liberal government removed arguments to support fee-simple private property rights in the Cowichan case. You cannot blame government lawyers for following ministerial directives. The federal government must ensure fee-simple property ownership takes priority in legal cases. Will the Prime Minister protect private property rights in all future negotiations and legal cases with First Nations? Yes or no?
The Honourable Minister for Crown Indigenous Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I encourage the member opposite to read all of principle number 14. He's only read the first sentence. However, Mr. Speaker, what I will talk about is the Cowichan and the current status. As far back as 2017, Canada argued that private landowners should be notified of the litigation. However, the courts ruled against that. However, since the ruling last summer, we consented to the Montrose application, and we're now awaiting a ruling from the judge on that. Montrose has applied to the British Columbia Supreme Court to reopen the trial and be added as a party. That will allow an impacted private property owner to be heard at trial. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The member for York Centre.
After 1 year, Canadians see all the promises are broken and all the fancy speeches were just an illusion. With this Prime Minister, it's more costs, more taxes, more debt, and more unemployment. The Prime Minister is just another Liberal. After a decade of deficits, taxes, and debt, Canada has the lowest investment per worker, the second lowest productivity, and second highest unemployment in the G7. The Liberals will add $1 trillion of debt by the turn of this decade. But Canadians will pay this credit card through more inflation and more taxes. So why won't this Liberal Prime Minister stop swiping the national credit card so Canadians can afford to live?
The Honourable Secretary and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, the member said more taxes. Well, this government has only reduced taxes. We've cut, capped, suspended many taxes, and we've enhanced tax deductions for millions of Canadian families, workers, and businesses. We've also protected federal benefits that Canadians rely on and added new benefits like the Groceries and Essentials benefit, which will help families with about $1,900 this year to help with the cost of groceries. We're also making it easier for Canadians to file their taxes so they can access those benefits through automated tax filing. That shows a clear commitment to addressing...
I'm a member for York Centre.
That member should tell that to the 2.2 million Canadians at the food bank.
That's right.
The Liberal $1 trillion of new debt means less growth and less jobs. In April, Canada lost 18,000 jobs and the unemployment rate is up. In the first 4 months of this year, Canada lost 111,000 full-time jobs. Youth unemployment is at 14.3%. Young Canadians already can't afford rent, groceries, or homes. Now they can't even find a job. Liberal insiders are getting rich while Canadians are getting poor. So will this Liberal government stop maxing out the national credit card so Canadians can afford the basic needs of life?
The Honourable Parliament Secretary, the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Speaker, you know, the Conservatives talk about jobs, but they don't want us to do anything in reality. Listen to what the Conservatives say. Their policies, in one word, they suck. Let me tell you something. When you take a look in terms of what it is this government has done over the last year, building major projects, looking for expanding export opportunities, bringing billions into investment, those are going to create the jobs that Canadians want, not only for today, but also into the future. It's time the Conservative Party wake up, realize, get on side, and be a little bit...
Order. I'm just going to remind the Parliamentary Secretary, who is an experienced member, not to use language could be considered unparliamentary. The Honourable Member for Dufferin-Caledon.
The unemployment rate in Japan, 2.4%. In Germany, 3.7%. In the United States, 4.2%. And in the United Kingdom, 4.7%. After these Liberals have been running our economy, Canada is 6.9%. We shed 47,000 jobs in April alone. 47,000 families that now have to figure out how they're going to pay their rent, pay their mortgage, and put food on the table. After doubling the national debt and spending so much, how have the results for Canadians been so terrible?
The Honourable Parliament Secretary, the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, whether it's investing in skilled trades workers or small craft harbors or sports from playground to podium or improving access to the disability tax credit, we're building Canada strong. That's a Canada not just for a few Canadians, but for all Canadians. We're doing that in a fiscally responsible manner, $11 billion less of a deficit, a AAA credit rating, the best fiscal position in the G7. We've also had the largest increase in foreign direct investment in 20 years, and the PBO has just confirmed that we have strong fiscal anchors. That's
the Honourable Member for Dufferin-Caledon.
I almost don't even know where to start with that. They reduced the deficit by $11 billion. No, Mr. Speaker, under Justin Trudeau, the deficit was $30 billion. It's now $65 billion. That's not less, it's more. And if they don't know that that's more and not less, maybe that's why we're in such a problem. And when they say they're going to do things, they don't seem to understand if they write something down, it doesn't mean it actually happens. And that's why we've got the highest unemployment rate in the G7. Will they at least apologize to the 112,000 Canadian families who lost their job and are now going to food banks?
The Honourable Parliament Secretary, the Minister of Industry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have the lowest debt to GDP in the G7. We have the highest foreign direct investment in this country in 18 years, almost $100 billion. And we have the highest exports in record, including 31% increase in exports to Europe. These are the signs of the resilience of the strength of the economy, that our plan is starting to work despite the trade action that is being launched. And we really seek the other side's support to get on board with these investments that can create jobs for young Canadians.
Member for Prescott, Russell, Cumberland.
Mr. Speaker, in a rapidly evolving geopolitical landscape where partnerships matter more than ever, Canada must work closely with allies while also building new relationships with like-minded countries. Could the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs update the House on how Canada is expanding its presence on the global stage, including through new forums and partnerships to strengthening alliances, attract investment, and support economic growth for Canadians?
The Honourable Parliament Secretary, the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
I want to thank the member for Prescott Russell Cumberland for the question. And I think everyone in this House knows that our government is significantly engaging around the world to do three things. We want to open markets for Canadian goods and services while attracting investment, create jobs for young people and all Canadians, and also to ensure that our economy is resilient. Just last week, the Minister of Foreign Affairs was in Armenia representing Canada at the European Political Community Summit. She was the first ever, this is the first time Canada has been at this group. We attracted investment. We will continue to create jobs. We'll continue to build Canada strong.
Member of St. Albert, Surgeon River.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals' Prescribe IT program has been a total debacle, costing taxpayers $300 million for a program that effectively no one used and that the government has since been forced to cancel. Now, we have learned that the CEO of the program was being paid $1 million a year, including pocketing a $215,000 bonus. This happened under the health minister's watch. So will she accept responsibility for this latest outrageous abuse of taxpayers' dollars?
Second Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Prescribe It was launched by the previous government in 2017. In consultation with provinces and territory. The program was always intended to become self-funded over time. When it became clear that it wasn't having the expected uptake and there was no path towards financial sustainability, our new government has made the responsible decision to end the funding to the program and redirect resources to make sure it maximizes benefits for all Canadians. Thank you.
Member of St. Albert, Surgeon River.
Mr. Speaker, the previous government is the same old Liberal government, and the buck stops with this minister. But this minister has admitted that she asked no questions as $300 million tax dollars went up in smoke. In addition to the CEO, several other executives were paid handsomely and walked away with $60,000 and $70,000 bonuses. Wow. So, who else got rich while taxpayers got hosed as this minister was asleep at the switch?
Permanent Secretary, Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will reiterate that the program was intended for pharmacies and clinicians to do e-prescribing. At the consultation and the request from provinces and territories, when it became clear that the uptake wasn't there, our new government has decided to end the funding to the program and redirect resources to make sure that it benefits all Canadians.
Member for Red Deer.
Mr. Speaker, week 3 of Liberal obstruction at Health Committee on the $300 million Prescribe IT scandal. The Liberals are desperately shielding their buddies and covering up decade-long disaster of failed programs that didn't fill prescriptions, but padded the pockets of Liberal insiders. And now they want to reward failure by giving Canada Health Infoway even more cash to blow in the future. Canadians are done with these Liberal money laundering schemes when the Liberals end the obstruction so Conservatives can get accountability for Canadians.
Parliament Secretary, Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Canada's new government was elected with a clear mandate to ensure programs and policies deliver smarter, faster, and more effectively for all Canadians. We're refocusing our spending and Canada Health Info is mandate so we can support the development of national health data standards while allowing our health sector partners to deliver solutions that work for all Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Hull-Aylmer.
This week, the Standing Committee on Public Safety heard critical testimony from various witnesses on Bill C-22, including the Canadian Centre for Child Protection. They highlighted that investigations on child sexual exploitation are taking too long, and that this bill would help law enforcement get the necessary information quicker. Can the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety tell this House how this bill is part of our government's broader public safety initiative?
Parliament Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety.
Thank you to the member of Hull-Aylmer, and also thank you. I want to take the occasion to thank the members of the Public Safety Committee for the important work they're currently doing. This bill is an essential piece of our government plan to ensure communities are safe. Mr. Speaker, this bill is all about victims. By making sure that law enforcement has the tools they need to combat crime, it intends to make sure we catch the bad guys before they make more victims. It's time that law enforcement has an updated Canadian solution to counter all criminals, most of all the ones who exploit children.
Member for Edmonton Manning.
Mr. Speaker, Canadian families are cutting down on groceries, gas, and necessities, while this Prime Minister is piling up the national credit card. Life is becoming unaffordable. Inflation caused by deficit spending is eating away from their ability to afford day-to-day life. With $1 trillion debt, this government approach is just an illusion, while Canadians paying the price. Will this Prime Minister tell Canadians that his credit card budget is the cause of all their suffering?
Parliament Secretary, Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I wonder if the House can help me with this. I've been wondering this for a while. Whose interests are Conservatives serving these days? I mean, we see in this House they're against feeding hungry kids. They're against reducing childcare fees. They're against providing dental coverage. They're against high-speed rail in the most densely populated region of the country. They're against productivity-boosting tax deductions for businesses. They're against building affordable housing. They're against Canadians being able to invest in major projects. I gotta ask, what do the Conservatives stand for anymore?
The Honourable Member for Rosemont-La Petite Patrie. Mr. Speaker, culture is what makes a people. Culture is what makes a people's true, deep identity. Music, literature, TV shows, movies, shared cultural objects, but web giants have really blown all that up. What's worse, with the decline of traditional TV, some of that has disappeared. The Liberals bragged about a deal without Netflix, but today on digital streaming platforms, it's almost impossible to find Quebec contents. When will the Liberals take the future of our culture seriously? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you very much, and I thank the member across the way for his question. I'm proud to be part of a government which understands how important it is to have a strong cultural sector and a strong country. The two go hand in hand. That's why we're investing in the cultural sector, over $700 million in culture in budget 2025-2026. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Speaker, 2025 was the second worst wildfire season in Canadian history, and Canadians are bracing for another devastating summer. Yet, despite the growing climate crisis, Canada is missing its climate targets and running out of time. While more than 50 countries gathered in Colombia to discuss the transition away from fossil fuels, the Liberals didn't even send a minister. Instead, they came home with a plan to fast-track more fossil fuel extraction. At a time when communities are burning and families are being displaced, why is the Liberal government doubling down on fossil fuel extraction?
The Minister for Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, I actually had the opportunity to speak with the Minister of Environment for Colombia, Minister of Environment for the Netherlands in advance of Santa Marta. They're the ones who are organizing it. I was unable to attend because I was here for the spring economic update, but we did have our top negotiator present for them. We are actually one of the few countries that produces conventional energy that was participating in this conference. We are continuing to be there to fight climate change and to make sure that we have an important role globally.
Order, daily routine of business, tabling of documents. The Honourable Parliament Secretary, the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pursuant to Standing Order 36.8a, I have the honour to table in both official languages the government's response to 12 petitions. These returns will be tabled in an electronic format.
Dépôt de projet de loi émanant du gouvernement.
Introduction of government bills, statements by ministers.
Parliamentary Secretary, the Minister of Justice.
Order 34.1, I have the honour to present to the House in both official languages the following reports. The Canadian section of Parlamerica's bilateral mission, Mexico City and Monterrey, Mexico, from March 2nd to the 6th, 2026, and the Canadian section of Parlamerica's 17th gathering of Parlamerica's Parliamentary Network for Gender Equality, Brasilia, Brazil, from September 26, 2026.
Presenting